Rahul Kamir, Punch Out Boxing. Delighted to be here with Savage Dan at the Boxer launch press conference for the new BBC contract. Now, I'm one of the people old enough to remember boxing on terrestrial TV.
Do you remember the last fight you watched on the BBC?
I think it might have been Audley Harrison's debut, and some people say that put the BBC off. Terrestrial TV, that's where superstars are made.
I remember the last one I think I watched, and I think I'm right, but I could also be wrong because it might have been ITV. But it was terrestrial TV. It was Amir Khan Brady's press call. Was that BBC?
That was ITV, I believe.
Oh, okay. Whoops. Sorry. Whoops. Wrong one. It probably wasn't even 23 years ago either, was it? Won't be too far off though.
Yeah.
Won't be too far off. But yeah, look, boxing on a terrestrial TV is big. It means you can watch it at your grandma's house. It means that you can watch it. It means that it's available to a much wider audience. And I think it can and will be something big going forward, especially with the way things are going with regards to pay-per-views and etc. etc. I just think that it is a very good shop window for the sport.
Absolutely. What you said there, grandma's house. That's how I measure a fighter being truly a household name. My mum and grandma knew Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson. And most of these stars of today, my mum and grandma wouldn't know.
No, she won't know Terence Crawford, the best fighter in the world, but she probably would know Anthony Joshua because his newspapers and stuff like that. But it gives you access to a wider audience, a different audience, and not everybody that has Sky Sports or TNT or DAZN has. Everybody that has those has BBC, and not everybody that has BBC has those other subscriptions. So, it's definitely a way to go into a new market and a much vaster audience. And sometimes demand equals supply. It's not necessary. Sorry, sometimes supply equals demand, and it needs to be there for people to be like, oh, I want to watch that, I want to see that, and it being live, prime time, 8 p.m. BBC Two. I think is a good way to start.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great opportunity for both these guys. They've had their ups and downs, but as you said, it gives them the opportunity, I guess, almost to like jump the queue. We know the British heavyweight scene's a golden era. The British heavyweight champ is usually a world-ranked fighter, and they can, as I said, jump the queue if they're the winner of this.
Yeah, essentially, whoever wins this is kind of puts their name in the hat for that. That section, that tier just below the absolute big boys. And it's not hard to do in terms of you win this title, and that is you use that as an absolute springboard onto bigger and better things. Everybody who does win that heavyweight British title goes on and has a big fight, big money fights, potential world title and European title fights. They come straight off the back of this. This is one of the most prestigious prizes that you can have, and the heavyweight, the British title itself is a well coveted, well respected, just a belt that everybody wants to win. But that heavyweight one stands out on its own.
Yeah, the heavyweight division's always been the flagship division, as we know. So becoming British heavyweight champ, it'll give those guys that status. And as you said, the tier just below world level at the moment actually might be the most important, because with Usyk essentially holding things up, it's the tier below that is where things happen.
Yeah, and where you get some of your best fights, and those are the fights that are easiest to make, because people understand that maybe their next fight won't be a world title shot, but let's get in a good fight which is going to get attention, and regardless, what I'm seeing now is that regardless of the winner and the loser, as long as you put in a good performance, you are still in a good position. You might lose, but as long as you lose well, and you lose with honor, and it's not one of those William Skull type performances, then your stock doesn't necessarily go down. So that tier there is where it's packed realistically. There's so many fighters in that mix, and no one necessarily knows who's better than who, and that's what's so good about boxing at that level.
And you think both these guys, winner and loser, they can easily mix in that level? Do you think they're at that level?
Yeah, definitely. When you look at their losses, they've come at the hands of David Adelaide, who went on to fight Hrgovic and almost had Hrgovic, and it's Wardley, who's now fighting Parker, and Fort Hooning in that conversation for the world title fight, but not quite there. So they're mixing it still in that kind of that second tier. So there are some big names, big money, big opportunities, and fights that the fans want to see. You know, there are sometimes you get a fight and you're just like, I am actually interested in seeing the outcome of that fight.
Absolutely, yeah, would be intriguing. Uncle Frank, you weren't happy that boxers decided to go head to head with him. Don't know if you saw his interview. Was it a conscious decision, or was it just that this is the date?
I also think that that's the date that worked best for everyone. Also, I don't think there'll be much of a clash. We are looking to be on BBC Two from 8 p.m. We'll be done probably by the time that the others are doing the main event, at least doing their ring walk. So, look, there's clashes all the time in boxing. We've had clashes so many times with other shows. You find a way, you figure it out. But it doesn't make sense for boxer or anyone, to be fair, to constantly move their dates just because someone else has got that date, unless it's an absolutely mammoth fight that you know you cannot compete with. We're here to compete.
Yeah, absolutely, it's a free market. Uncle Frank's gonna have to he's gonna have to swallow that. Yeah, just I don't know how much you know or are at liberty to talk about in terms of this new contract. Presumably it's not exclusive to BBC. Is a boxer also doing shows on other platforms if need be?
So I would leave all of those questions for Ben, or I will. I know the answers, but I will leave all of those answers for Ben. Put it this way, Ben missed today because he is still in meetings with Turkey Al Sheikh. So yes, there is scope to do things elsewhere also.
Okay, if he's in meetings with such illustrious personalities, then we know a lot's afoot. Yeah, a few fights. I think Callum Simpson, who I know you're planning on challenging, just as soon as you get your form back up, he's already come out and said, yeah, he's looking forward to becoming that household name through the terrestrial TV.
Fighters now have an opportunity. Not that they didn't have the opportunity before. You know, Sky Sports is a massive platform and it can make you a household name very quickly to what are already sports fans. This BBC deal and being on the BBC can make you a bigger brand, because you are now potentially with the people that are watching. I don't know what comes on BBC Two, but I was going to say Coronation Street. I feel like it does, but it's a completely different audience. You still have the audience you have. You still have, all the everything that you built. You still have, but you get to build on that and become bigger and maybe go in places that maybe you weren't going to be before. The amount of homes it's in, and the amount of eyes, and the amount every time the BBC put out their numbers, they are ridiculous numbers. Like when Chelsea won the Club World Cup, and for me, I'm a Chelsea fan, that was like the biggest thing I thought the whole world was watching. And then actually the Women's World Cup final or European Cup final, which was on BBC, absolutely trumped the numbers because everyone was watching that instead. It just shows that there are more people on this planet and in this country than people realise. So as far as viewing figures, it will not get much bigger than BBC.
Do you know anything about what's going to happen with like some of the other big names you've got? Are they penciled in for any dates on the BBC?
Yeah, so we'll obviously have some on the undercard here. We've got dates that we're looking at with the BBC, and it is now about getting enough dates and ways to service all of our fighters. A lot of them are excited about what this can mean being on the BBC. I think the numbers will do the talking once we have our first show on October 25th, and you start looking at actually how many people tuned in and how many people stay tuned in. Then you'll be able to really judge how good this move is.
Obviously, one concern fans have, I don't know why, because it's not our business, but in terms of the finances, BBC, do they have the money to put up? Or, I mean, again, I don't know how much you can reveal, but for example, Callum Simpson's European mandatory was called. Saggio's promoters won it, apparently with a low bid. Do you know what's going to happen with that? It's going to be accepted?
I'm not sure about that much. We'll find out, but as we know, there are different options and ways this can go. BBC have money. Put it that way. BBC have money. I think it's up to Boxer and BBC to work out where they see the value and where the worth is.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I've got to ask you about a couple of big fights upcoming. Ben's man, Eubank against Ben too. It was an epic night last time. How do you see this one going?
I actually see it happening in a similar kind of way. I think we'll get a little bit more boxing. I don't think either fighter really wants to have to go through that again. That was a 12-round, 36-minute war. If a jab was thrown, it was only because there was a big loop and right hand coming behind. It was that kind of night. Fantastic night. I think Eubank will win again. I think it will be. I had it 8-4. I think it probably agreed with a couple of the judges. I think it was 116, 112, but I think it was a bit clearer than how people had it. I think it will be a similar score, and I think it will be a slightly cleaner, less emotional fight. I think Conor will try to box a little bit more, and it will afford Chris maybe a little bit more space and that millisecond that maybe he wants to be able to just back up and throw his shots whilst he's backing up. And I think it will be another victory for Chris. But I do like Conor. I've got a soft spot for him. I do.
All right, it would be fascinating to see. And of course, Adam Azim's making his return on that. Abdullayev, good fighter, but is this sort of seen as a bit of a comeback tune-up for him before in the next year? Is Adam going to be sort of pushing on to those world titles?
I'm not sure. I think he's a better opponent than people are giving him credit for. I think that's a step up. Adam's only young still. And whilst it seemed at one point like you're pushing him, trying to rush him, you still have to be careful enough. And I think this is the right test at the right time. I think this will be probably his toughest opponent. I think some people will look at the opponent and be like, I'm not sure, maybe we don't know enough about him. He's an okay opponent. He's tough. He's gritty. He'll make Adam work. And hopefully he'll ask Adam some questions that need to be asked before you actually go on to that top level.
Yes, indeed. Worth remembering, he's in probably the toughest division at 140, so it does need to be developed properly. Just to conclude then, how does the British heavyweight title fight on the 25th go? Give us your final prediction.
Final prediction, we get a humdinger of a fight, a really good fight. And I'm not going to pick a side because I like them both. They're both my friends. I'm going with a majority draw.
I love it. All right, Savage Dan, absolute pleasure. Look forward to seeing you on the 25th.
Thank you very much. You love all.